Hello, everybody. Scott Golden. This with the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Review Series. This is the April 25th, 1992 edition. As we inch ever closer to the Volunteer Slam, where we will crown the first ever Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion and Tag Champs on the way through that run. And without a doubt, Carl Styles still with Dutch Mantel as, I guess, a bodyguard slash mentee, whatever you want to call it. That's not going as well as Dutch would hope for the losses last week. Hollywood Bob Holly, otherwise known as the later Hardcore Holly in WWF, is here, and he is pretty determined about becoming a pretty major force. This may be one of his last matches, though, as he is facing off, I believe, against one of the Batten twins, and Holly doesn't show up too many more times in the program. I think he left wrestling or reduced wrestling for a while, but he gets hip-tossed, and after a missed Oklahoma roll, hits his takeover by the babyface, and a couple of them actually, before Holly drops his opponent on the top rope with a kind of a neck vice type maneuver. Holly is so talented, and he manages to hit a couple of elbow drops. Doing the pink and black thing, I don't know, reminds me a little of Bret Hart, still trying to find himself. He hops onto and gets on a neck vice, which is a pretty good deal. Doesn't get everything he wants off it, but gets enough. And eventually Holly manages to gain a victory with a top rope. I believe this is the knee drop version. He's used top rope splash, top rope knee drop, top rope elbow. Basically, if it's from the top rope and you can do it as an offensive maneuver, that would be a finish. Knee drop this time. He does it. He actually sits on his opponent as part of the process there, and without a doubt, he has a decent enough match here. It's meant to be a squash finish. Odd that he's not in the tournament, but maybe it was known that he'd be leaving that quickly. And Bob Armstrong, the commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, is out next with news pertaining to the tournament. But he invites Paul Orndorff in, lets him know once again that the pile driver has been banned, and a fine will be levied every time he uses it. That Armstrong will be in attendance for the tournament. Orndorff pretty well gripes and bellyaches about the unfair treatment. People can use the DDT and other lethal holds. He can't use the pile driver that made him famous, and he's not happy with any of that. Needless to say, we come back to Bob Caudle. Bob Caudle, probably one of the most underrated people in the area in terms of just focus and contribution. We see another, I guess you'd say, inset promo with Brian Lee. Brian Lee promises to win the championship. The Batten brothers say they're going to face off against the Heavenly Bodies sooner or later and other tag teams, and they are ready to rock, ready to roll, and ready to make a difference in the area. The Fantastics also, Jackie and Bobby Fulton, are completely focused on the desire to win the tag team championships, kind of mentioning the Heavenly Bodies and Jim Cornette a little bit, as that's the main team in the area. That's what's being set up. Davey Rich is up next. He is in a match here. And his opponent is Jimmy Golden. Golden, who goes on to the Smoky Mountain title tournament to face off against Rock and Roll Robert Gibson. Rich manages to get Golden into a Boston Crab. Doesn't get all he wants on it, though. Golden manages to get to the bottom rope. Golden manages to get to his feet and use the ropes. Really good ring positioning. Rich actually gets a few hope spots where it looks like he may actually win the contest. Doesn't manage to, gets a back suplex. Golden heads to the outside in a hurry. Doesn't seem to want to waste a lot of time in there. Crank up on headlocks and really basic Southern style good wrestling for the next couple of minutes. They work over the headlock for a couple of minutes. Uh, Golden finally takes him down, and works over the leg and the hamstring, kicks, punches, and the like, working the hamstring pretty relentlessly and aggressively there. Without a doubt, you see what you see, and the half crab step over by Golden gets him an advantage. He uses the ropes as a extra form of leverage and cheating. The referee kind of catches him, but not really. Then we see a switch back to the babyface being in control, with Rich managing a body slam among other things. Um, you know, sidewalk tackle and again drop kicks under the chin. And actually get to win with a drop kick does Golden, which is just bizarre to see a guy win a match with a drop kick. People don't even do drop kicks half the time anymore. They're so interested in their flip de doos and flip de don'ts. But needless to say, that drop kicks are part of the arsenal of Jimmy Golden here in 1992. And without a doubt, that is a good thing for just the way that wrestling works, maybe at the time. As mentioned, he goes on facing off against Rock and Roll Robert Gibson in the tournament. Not quite sure if that's been fully announced yet. The tournament brackets, don't think so. I think it was this episode or the next one. But we'll be here for all 200 plus, probably about 210 or so by the time you factor in special shows and the like. And what's amazing to me is this is, to me, other than maybe ECW, you could make the argument that ECW was the last territory that ended in 2000. What you have now is just television companies, and the world has changed, and there's lots of rights for television. I think it would take a lot to go back to a local company being valuable in terms of as a brand. I still think it's possible. I still think that you can have enough fans in a non-COVID environment come out and want to see live product and hometown stars. But it takes more now than it ever has before to bring about that opportunity. Brian Lee is up next. Brian Lee in an enhancement challenge match. Obviously, Lee, who's facing Joe Kazana here, probably the number one babyface at the time, an unknown babyface. Don't really know a lot about where he came from. Do know that he does become a major deal. Big guy, probably about 6'4" to 6'6", somewhere in there. He later does the Faker Taker thing in 1994 at SummerSlam and goes on to be in the Disciples of Apocalypse, the DOA, around 97, 98 or so. Some hip tosses and leapfrogs. Leapfrogs, pretty impressive for a guy his size. He cranks on arms and does some very basic maneuvers. You can tell he's green. You can tell he doesn't know a heck of a lot of what he's doing in there. And Kazana and others have to lead him through matches. That's to be expected with a big rookie, though. And certainly the idea of having a muscular babyface, certainly in 92, a pretty big deal. Nice switch into the gut wrench into a backbreaker, which he calls the cancellation. I'm not necessarily sure that I like the name of the move, but Brian Lee gets a victory there. Carl Styles, actually, before we get there is a confrontation between Buddy Landell and Brian Lee. So you're setting up Lee to be, your top babyface, and he's got confrontations with Dutch Mantell, known to the Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia area. Buddy Landell, known to the same area. Landell, not impressed with the size or acumen of his adversary. Then we see Carl Styles. Styles out, basically saying that he has been away the last couple of weeks, had been arrested or something such. And the Dutch Mantell didn't bail him out. So there's issues in that regard as far as between them. Then we have let's see. Nope. Then we have Killer Kyle. I wanted to say a masked guy, and I believe Reno Reagan is his opponent. Killer Kyle, guy who brings the violin case to the ring, almost dressed like a monster, suspenders, black pants, white shirt, the whole deal. Riggins tries to go after him, hits a few shots. Killer Kyle misses a few shots, and then hits a couple punches. Obviously, the size differential helps, but also there's a good bit of good speed and motion from Riggins. Riggins with a cross body goes after him pretty aggressively. Gets a near fall, but you see the guy rocking, but he never really goes down for very long unless it's a high impact maneuver. It does the up and over from behind. Riggins tries to nail him. Ultimately, even something this simple does go that well. Sends him into the corner hard, and a back suplex by good old Killer Kyle leads us in a direction that's more advantageous for his benefit anyway. Then we go a little bit further, and Reno Riggins makes his way to the top rope. Tries a top rope crossbody, but in an impressive display of power, Kyle catches him, holds him for a good 15-20 seconds, and then almost does I guess you'd say, a hanging spine buster. 1, 2, 3, and Killer Kyle is victorious here in the match here. Another guy that maybe just doesn't have the experience, but I'm a little surprised he wasn't in the tournament. Speaking of the tournament, we kind of go through talks about the tag tournament as the Maulers and the Fantastics and Davis and Mags versus the Heavenly Bodies are the final four teams in the tag team tournament. And obviously, most people know that the Heavenly Bodies are the team, but we see Mags and Danny Davis here against the Bodies in this, I guess you'd say, still first round match. No, maybe semifinal match, but tag team title championship tournament match anyway. But Jim Cornette out with the Heavenly Bodies, of course, Stan Lane and Tom Pritchard. Sad to see Stan Lane go. I don't think he leaves until sometime in 93. And not that there's anything wrong with Jimmy Del Rey, but Stan Lane always was a guy that I was enthralled with in my fandom once I found him. I didn't find him until probably 91, 92, video store rentals. Again, we didn't get, in my house, I had to go to my grandparents, and this is a semifinal match, by the way. I had to go to my grandparents for any cable, but in my house, the house I grew up in, we didn't have cable, so getting the NWA was difficult. I got maybe /WCW up until 92 when we did get cable, so my exposure to the NWA /WCW until that point was very limited. Maybe I'd get a couple of Boston or New York stations. But anyway, Tom Pritchard and Danny Davis going at it pretty well. Head scissors takeover by Davis. Pretty impressive by 1992 standards. Davis, an amazing babyface, bumping both of the adversaries around relatively quickly and going right at him. I mean, really aggressively. Nice backdrop by Tom Pritchard, and he gets bounced around Joey Maggs and Danny Davis in control for the first several minutes. Jim Cornette not happy, regroups his team on the floor as is to be expected. Hard shots. Stan Lane comes in, gets hit in the face. He is unhappy with that development, complaining to the referee and anyone who will listen about that development. Jim Cornette having basically an aneurysm on the floor. Talk about, honestly, to me, Smoky Mountain might have been the last really good tag team territory. By 2000, we had more spotty teams like your Edge and Christian, your Hardy Boys. Not that there's anything wrong with those styles if you like that sort of thing, but the transition away from telling tag stories began as early as the year 2000 to 2005. Drop downs by Joey Maggs. Maggs back into the ring and a big hip toss by Maggs. What's amazing to me is that guys that we're seeing as enhancement talent on national television could be stars in smaller territories, and I always found that interesting. Anyway, nice transition as Lane shifts the momentum of the match pretty aggressively, assertively here, and hits a neckbreaker, swinging neckbreaker, almost like something the Honky Tonk Man would do. Big body slam by Tom Pritchard once he tags back in and drops the knee almost akin to a Harley Race style knee. Goes with the continuation. Jim Cornette obviously happier on the outside with that shift in momentum, and his team remains dominant for the next several minutes. Kick to the midsection and a short knee by Pritchard. Pritchard, one of the guys that honestly I think, now I got to do a couple of camps with Tom. I think 2 camps with Tom Pritchard back when I was doing announcing on the Indies. Such a smart guy. Such an amazing trainer, and will be a major loss to the business when he decides to not be involved anymore. Still doing some training in Tennessee with Kane, Glenn Jacobs, a.k.a. The Christmas Creature from Smoky Mountain Days. Anyway, a clothesline to the back of the head by Lane, and then we continue the match. Heavenly Bodies eventually do get your victory after cranking down on things. Double team maneuver by the Bodies, 1, 2, 3. And victory is taken by the Heavenly Bodies, and they advance to the finals of the tag team tournament, which is a good thing. White Lightning, Tim Horner is up with the final promo of the day, and the Heavenly Bodies are up there gloating about winning, and they basically know that the Maulers or the Fantastics are coming for them. They don't seem to care either way. Stan Lane, Tom Pritchard are certainly in their prime. Love the robes, too. If you've never seen the Heavenly Bodies robes at the time, they are phenomenal. Also fun is Jim Cornette making fun of just about anybody in the area, and also the fans. And Tom Pritchard even, kind of shaking his hair out, kind of getting an advantage, any advantage he can get. Needless to say, that's super interesting as well. But Cornette promises that the Bodies will be your tag team champions here in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and no reason to believe him at this point, except, well, he's a heel. So why would you believe a heel? Anyway, that'll close us for this edition. Hopefully we'll have more up tonight, depending on my work schedule. But until then, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.